Hello and welcome to the final match, round 7, WIXOSS October Ceremony 2022. Wouldn't you know, we actually have a full team for the second time all ceremony. We had an Ancient Surprise team earlier, but this is the only other actual dedicated team I faced. All of the other 5 teams were dream teams of various levels of customization. And it's X Center, which is this is the kind of deck that I was more expecting to play throughout this, so it felt somewhat appropriate that the last game here, um, was some DXM on DXM violence. So I play the Deus variant, which I know is probably not as powerful as the X variant is, but frankly, I like it more. I love the value options, the recursion that Deus has. Deus as a center is just so powerful, regardless of who she's with, that it always feels good to just play Deus and just pair her up. A little bit of a mistake. I tried to play a level 2 because they're both vanilla life burst Signy, and so I grabbed the wrong one. So he thankfully was not able to fill both of his lanes, but clearly it did not matter because I swing in with a Pedum and he hits a life burst that vanishes my XX. So he did not have a guard either, so we're doing okay so far. I shouldn't say it's the best possible outcome because obviously you would have liked to get both attacks in, especially in whenever you see this matchup, you're assuming that it's going to be very heavy aggro. Basically, whoever can race to the finish line first is going to be the one who takes it. So, grows into 2. Obviously not shocking at this point. He grows into... That is the... I think that was Machina Wing Slash. It's hard to tell because of the glare, but I'm pretty sure that was Machina Wing Slash. To vanish my Apedum, he pulls something back from the trash. I don't remember who that was. He has a Cargo Code Ride, which burns an enter and enter charges you, so to speak. So it's the net enter is the same. It's the kind of card that you see it and you're like, why would you run that? But if you can starve out specific colors, it makes a big deal. Also relevant, you'll notice that the card that got charged is a Servant, which would have been extremely nice to have in my hand and not stuck in the enter zone, unfortunately. So he fills up the board. It's hard for me to see what those cards are. This one, that's the one where you pay, I can't remember the name of it. You pay an enter charge, or you pay an enter to burn an enter. So now that the Servant I have that is stuck in enter is now in my trash, which actually is not bad, because if I hit a Servant in the Life Cloth, I now actually have a target for it. And then there was another one that if I had 2 or more energy, he can burn me as well. So it's a common, X, enter, burn, aggro, etc. The kind of things you'd expect. So he hits Baphomet, which is no burst. He hits Animirage, which will allow me to fill a lane and at least stop some element of bleeding here. So he does not swing, and then I do have a guard, thankfully, to prevent some of that damage. So I would say we're relatively even footing right now. We both have prevented 1 damage through life bursts. I had a Servant where he did not, so I do have somewhat of an edge there. But at the same time, he is level. He had the first turn, so he's ahead of me in terms of level. So there's Deus 2, where he's going to have X3 on his next turn. So it's the give and take between going first and second. I feel like in this matchup, you want to go second to get the first attack, which is where I was. Or no, did I go second? Yes, I did, because he did not fill the lanes. So I vanished the Cargo because I don't want him messing with my enter. I return. I didn't see what I returned to hand. Probably a Baphomet, just knowing, what I had and what was in there. So Lancelot comes in, and second Lancelot comes in, which is pretty much exactly the situation you want to be in. Opening all your opponent's lanes this early in the game. I do grow into Echo. Again, as I mentioned, it's the kind of thing where you want to stay ahead. If you're ever in a situation where you don't have a guard and you have X Echo, it's worth digging to see if you can find one. Don't remember if I find one, but we'll see here in a second. So, first attack looks like nothing. Another Vanish effect. So he was able to open a lane and prevent a damage there as well. And there's the guard. So a little bit behind schedule, but you kind of have to account for some of this stuff. You can't expect to go the whole match without hitting life bursts and guards. Um, Obviously, in a perfect world, he'd be at nothing, but at no life cloth. But again, you can't anticipate that. So I'm okay. I'm feeling okay, at least in this situation. The bursts that I've hit have not been the end of the world. I've dodged enough of them that I feel like I'm at least on track, if not slightly ahead. So it's kind of dawning on me now that the enter is probably going to become a problem for me, just because he has a lot of burn. Like he's going the full burn package here to starve me out, which may or may not have an effect on what I'm doing here. So he goes into the Deus Recovery, which is mill 2 and then bring, I think, 2 back to hand. I don't play Deus Assists, honestly, so I don't know exactly what that one... I know it's mill 2 and get at least 1 Signy. I think it's 2 Signy back to hand. Or something. He's just thinking about what to get here. Yep. So, and he is an X3, which is potentially a problem, because she's got all of her fancy abilities. He can start attaching souls and doing all kinds of stuff with that. I don't know what that card is off the top of my head. He's clearly explaining it to me. I think it's he paid for something. I don't know what that was. And there's a cargo again. Yeah, sorry, I was so distracted I didn't even see it play the cargo. So he does trash the cargo. I mean, he just did that to mess with the enter a little bit, which is fine. I mean, it makes sense. Oh, you know what? That those Signy, those 2 Signy in particular are if the Signy in the opposite side in front of them in the same lane is 5,000 or less, they gain Assassin. That's what it is. So those 2 Signy that I'm pointing to in those 2 lanes have Assassin, and obviously that one is in the open lane. I think I'm getting like a power count, or I'm asking if there's an ability on it, which I don't think there is off the top of my head. At least not one that, or maybe it's. I think it does something with enter burning. Honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, like when it attacks, it burns an enter or something like that. Not as familiar with the X. I know X is super popular, but I play so much more Deus that there's a lot of burning, enter burning red cards that I'm just not as familiar with. So I'm deciding what to grow into here. If I grow into something, I'm at 5 life. So it's not really the end of the world, even though I'm staring down 4 damage right now. It's the kind of thing that if I can hit a life burst or something to prevent a damage or clear a lane or something like that, it may be worth trying to bait it out. So I actually do pass. I do not grow. So he chooses to enter charge with his attack. Lancelot is nothing. Amethystal is nothing. And then we've got a Steampunk, which is also nothing. So in my hopes that I would, take a whole bunch of damage and hit a life burst, it clearly did not matter. So we hit a, oh my god, I can't remember the name of that card now, but it ended up not mattering. I think his Signy were, no, what is that? What's it called? Maybe it's 6K or, I can't remember. I don't remember what the life burst of that is. I think it's discard a card or pay 1 to vanish something. Oh, you know what it is? It's upped. It's target up Signy gets 15, minus 15, which obviously, like, they're all down, so it does nothing at this point. Enervating Melody, that's the name of that card. Yeah, so the Enervating Melody life burst does nothing because all of his Signy have attacked. So I went there being like, okay, I'm at 5. Like, I'll hit a life burst of something and maybe it'll save me. And nothing happened. I didn't have a servant. So now all of a sudden I'm like scrounging at the end here to try to do something here. So we trigger just because I feel like I have to at this point. I do return a Lancelot because I know 2 of his Signy if not all three, are vulnerable to Lancelot. So that'll at least help me push some damage through. I believe his life burst is a servant, so he's looking at what to return. And I can't tell, based on the angle, what that is. I don't think it was a servant. So I was asking him what the size of everything was. Just trying to figure out. Yeah, so Lancelot comes in. And Lancelot comes in. This looks familiar, doesn't it? I feel like this just happened this exact game. Lancelot in the left two lanes. He is down 2, but he's got both of his assists, so I know I'm going to be in rough shape here. So I go into Animirage to vanish the last Signy. Try and force the issue as much as possible. He's got so much enter at this point that it's going to be hard for me to really push anything through. I trash Xax to try to, again, try to be as like defensive as possible. Or no, you know what it is? I'm looking, judging by that play, the fact that I played Amethyst, still I'm looking for a guard because I don't have one in hand, and I'm like 90% certain that I will not survive. Even if I somehow survive all the Signy attacks, which is not a guarantee, I'm gonna need a guard to survive the Elrig attack because I know for sure he's got Trigger of Victory. He hasn't played it yet, so the trigger is gonna crush my last life cloth. And the only way I could possibly survive is if I draw into a guard. Regardless, even if all the Signy, like he does nothing and just leaves my Signy there, which is not a thing in X, right? The X2 soul already vanishes a Signy. But potentially I can, counter grow. I've got both of my assists, thankfully. But I absolutely need a guard 100% because if all he has to do is attack in with his Elrig, if I don't have a guard, it's over. So I can flip a servant potentially, like in the previous game where if my last card is a servant, I can flip into it, life burst it, bring a servant back to hand. But I need as many options, as many possible ways to get a servant as I can. So that's why the Amethystal is out to at least draw me a card and hope that it's a guard at this point. So that's at least where I'm at. I know I'm in really bad shape right now, even though the board's open and the attacks are in. Um, I'm in bad shape. So he goes into Day of Shield, which becomes somewhat relevant. Again, if I had survived, which, spoiler, I don't, he mills himself so much that he becomes at risk for Death Deck at this point, because he's going to mill 10 on the end of turn just because of Day of Shield. So he does flip into a life burst that vanishes one of my Signy, and now I know I'm in extra danger. He's got a servant there anyway. So now he's got an open lane. I still don't believe I have a servant. So there's a lot of things that are just not going my way right now. And you're kind of seeing the full potential of X aggro here in terms of the extreme amount of pressure it puts on you. And the fact that Day of Shield can conceivably block, if you want, it can block 3 full sources of damage for you. Which is like perfect for X because X is so heavy aggro to have an assist that you can lean back on. Basically, use all of your resources in terms of like going in and then just having Day of Shield in your back pocket. If your opponent ever threatens you too much, just be like, "Hey, I got Day of Shield. You prevent 3 damage." And then like, what do you do? Like, you just can't. There's no possible way to outpace it really, which is the struggle that I'm working with right now. Because Daze is more of a mid-range build. It's designed to go into the longer game, but it cannot keep up with the pure aggro power that X can put out. And you're really seeing that here. Even if things had gone my way, like maybe I hit a couple life bursts here and there to help, at the end of the day, I don't think it would have mattered because he's already got an open lane. I mean, I've got both of my assists all right. But both days, I mean, X as well, like both of them can open lane so easily that even with 2 assists, I'm still staring down. There's the Trigger of Victory, so that'll crush my last life cloth. I'm waiting to see what he returns. Not that it really matters at this point. But that's also something. Yeah, there is a life burst, but it doesn't matter. Um, the Deus Shield kind of goes into that as well, because the Trigger of Victory, the second ability is to return any non-servant from your trash to your hand. So if you milled an extra 10, you really increase your options in terms of what you can bring back with the Trigger of Victory. So again, even in a perfect world where maybe I have one or more life, like if I have a life cloth or two still left, he's going to have three open lanes. My enter is way down already. I have enough to Machina, and I can X something that's level 2. So I can potentially open up 2 lanes if I need to, at least right now. But there's just so much aggro power here. So I don't know which soul that was. I believe that's the one that enter charges or draws when it attacks. But also relevant, I didn't mention it. He's got 2 Kentokis on the field, and both of them have assassin. So again, he doesn't even need to open the lanes. He's got 2 assassins. He's got an open lane in the middle. I have 0 life cloth. I have 2 assists that can do 2 things, but I can't do 3. Like there is no scenario here where I like survive. And he's also burning my enter as well because of Kentoki. Like he's got 2 Kentokis. He's got a soul on the field. So now even if I had both assists, I would not have survived the what is essentially the 3 open lanes. So I do vanish one of them for pride, but it just doesn't matter at this point. I mean, he's so far ahead. Like he's got 3 sources of damage that I cannot stop, 2 Insigni that are unstoppable. I don't have a guard, but it doesn't matter. He just got there so much faster than I did, and kind of just shows exactly what this deck is capable of and why a lot of people were scared of it. If you're playing even just a slightly slower, because Deus can go in. I mean, Deus has a lot of aggro options, but just being ever so slightly slower, and it was just an absolute massacre. So kudos to him. Good game. I ended up going 3-4 in the tournament. It was not quite what I would have liked. I would have liked to get a little higher. Obviously, I wanted to hit to get the Osakitsune promo. That's what I was gunning for, but did not get there, unfortunately. So, but there it is. I hope you enjoyed all the videos. Thank you all for watching, and perhaps we'll see you in the next ceremony.